Finland is one of those countries I honestly forget when I think about Scandinavia, and I've almost completed a small series where I've gone through every European country and their major roller coasters, and many of these countries doesn't even have a top 5 roller coaster worth mentioning, so this might be the last one. And in one of my recent videos I got the request, can you do Finland from Botrohomeus 2427, so luckily I found 15 of the best roller coasters in Finland, so get ready. And coming in at spot number 15 we got Vuonkappotuus at Linnanmäki, and let's be honest, there's many of these names I can't even pronounce, and just to make this top 15 I had to use some scrapped rides. And Vuonkappotuus is a very rare Premier Rides water coaster. This water coaster features a very janky roller coaster section with a few sharp turns and then a great drop into the water. This coaster layout was very janky and very rattly, but the splashdown section makes up for the ride experience, and I tried my best with the footage with this one. And coming in at spot number 14 we got Linnunrata at Linnunmäki, and to be honest this is just one of those roller coasters I had to include on the list to make a spot 15. And this Linnunrata roller coaster is a Zero Rides family roller coaster, but it is indoors. This really is a pretty janky roller coaster layout with some twists and turns, and that's it. Honestly, this is just a very small indoor roller coaster and it's themed to space, so it looks quite funny. Linnunrata overall just looks like a very budget version of Space Mountain, and I think this roller coaster replaced a water tower of some sort. The water tower should have stayed. And coming in at spot number 13 we got Kierno at Linnanmäki, and yet again we got the Park Linnanmäki with another roller coaster, but they shouldn't really be proud of this roller coaster. Kierno is actually an intimate sack spin roller coaster, and the overall ride experience is just as bizarre as the look of this roller coaster. And to be honest, this ride experience isn't even that bad. And as always, I compare these intimate sack spins with the Vekoma Boomerang because they are very positive G-force heavy and they got some cool inversions, but on top of that you have a very unpleasant layout with a very rattly train. Ooh. And coming in at spot number 12 we got Halfpipe at Sakeniemi Amusement Park, and unfortunately yet again I had to include a dead roller coaster on the list, but in my opinion I think this Halfpipe coaster is more flat ride than roller coaster. The Halfpipe coaster just overall offered a mid-ride experience. It isn't really a ride experience I would try again, but if I was forced to it I wouldn't mind. You can get a bit of floater airtime on the top of these small stalls and the trains are spinning, so that's a big plus. But in all honesty the newer intimate Halfpipes are way better, so I get why they scrapped this coaster. And now coming in at spot number 11 we got Cobra at Power Park, and wow, we got a Vekoma Boomerang on the list, yay! But in all honesty Cobra isn't even a bad ride. Let's just call it a mid-tier Vekoma Boomerang, but you know the Vekoma Boomerang is already at the bottom of the coaster models. Well, what does Cobra have to offer? You have a decently forceful Cobra roll and a vertical loop, and then you take the whole ride experience backwards of course. But unfortunately Cobra has an awful train designer, and on top of that these over-the-shoulder restraints are just what the hell. But lucky for Cobra this rattle isn't even that bad, so I'll survive. And coming in at spot number 10 we got Moto-G at Sakeniemi Amusement Park yet again, and wow, we're starting to go up to some rides you can actually survive now. Moto-G is of course a motorbike roller coaster made by Zamperla, and despite the small area size this coaster actually has a pretty lengthy layout. This ride starts off great with a decently punchful launch, and then it goes upwards into a turn that's pretty forceful, but after this Moto-G just decides to give up, because then you just have a turn, and then you have another turn, then you have another turn and another turn. These turns are a bit sharp, so it does have a bit of airtime, but it's so boring and repetitive, and these trains are also janky. Better luck next time, Moto-G. And coming in at spot number 9 we got Ukko at Linnanmäki, and now we actually made it to these coasters you can actually consider riding yet again. Ukko is actually a Mauer Ride Skyloop model, and this coaster is actually a terrifying roller coaster for non-coaster enthusiasts. Ukko has this infamous and iconic beyond vertical lift hill that goes into a hang time filled inversion, and then it twists around another time and goes into a dive loop down to the ground. This ride really has a lot of hang time, and after that the inversion is also pretty whippy. The vertical dive is also pretty good, but after that you have this terrible experience where the chain lift catches you again. That's just awful. And coming in at spot number 8 we got Salama at Linnanmäki, and this is actually a decently fun family spinning roller coaster by Mauer Rides, and to be honest this family spinning roller coaster by Mauer Rides could be their greatest model. Salama really has a very lengthy layout with many sharp turns and twists, great drops and great pacing. These trim brakes doesn't even kill the whole pacing on this roller coaster like it does on a roller coaster in Bobbejaland. I wouldn't ride this roller coaster alone, but these spinners are just very fun when you sit with other people. And coming in at spot number 7 we got Hype at Sakeniemi Amusement Park. Now we're starting to come up to these roller coasters that are actually fun to ride, and Hype is actually a Premier Ride Skyrocket 2 model, and in my opinion these Skyrocket 2s are very underrated. Hype has a short but very punchy layout with ejector airtime at the top, and when you go down again you have another twisted vertical drop with ejector airtime, and this hang time filled inversion that's so great. After the twisted vertical drop you have a non-inverting roll that also gives a bit of whip and airtime. Unfortunately this roller coaster has the comfort colors from Premier Rides, and I would call them the discomfort colors. And now coming in at spot number 6 we got Vuoristorata at Linnanmäki, and this wooden roller coaster is a very rare side friction coaster, so that means this train doesn't doesn't have wheels under the track. This wooden roller coaster has the same layout as a coaster I have in Denmark. This coaster does have some very slow turns, but it still have some airtime hills. If you want some airtime on these hills, sit in the front row or back row. Overall, you just got a very iconic and smooth wooden roller coaster with a few airtime pops, and this coaster also has an onboard brakeman, which is very cool. But if these brakemen brake too much, it is just too slow. And now coming in at spot number 5, we got Pit Special at Power Park, and Pit Special is actually part of the iconic Infinity coaster model by Gerstlauer. But if I'm really being honest, this coaster really looks like a big Eurofighter model, and if I'm being completely honest, this may be the weakest Infinity coaster out there, but Pit Special still has a very awesome ejector airtime filled first drop, and you also have a low to the ground speed hill with a lot of airtime. But unfortunately, the other ride elements are just way too big and drawn out on this roller coaster. This coaster overall has a great first drop, great airtime hill, smooth lat bars, and you know, that's it. And now coming in at spot number 4, we got Thunderbird at Power Park, and yet again we got Power Park on the list with a GCI wooden roller coaster this time. Overall, Thunderbird is a mid-sized GCI wooden roller coaster with a decent start, but then the second half is just too slow. Thunderbird starts out with a decent drop, and then you have this turnaround section with a floater pop, and then it goes low to the ground into a floater airtime hill. It's all great until you hit the second half. This ride experience overall has a decent length, and these GCI wooden roller coaster trains are just so smooth to ride. So overall, decent coaster, but low tier GCI wooden coaster. And coming in at spot number 3, we have Tornado at Sarkanimi Amusement Park. This roller coaster is a very rare intimate inverted roller coaster, and this coaster layout is very weird. You start off with a very weirdly banked first drop, and then you have a decent forceful vertical loop and a cobra roll, but after that you have a way too drawn out overbank turn through the vertical loop. But then at the end, Tornado surprises you with 2 very drawn out hardline rolls with a lot of hang time. So overall, a very weird but good inverted coaster with special elements. And now coming in at spot number 2, we got Junker at Power Park. And funny enough, this Power Park in Finland has 2 Gerstlauer Infinity coasters, but Junker is just the superior one. Junker has an almost identical layout to the Monster roller coaster in USA, but Junker starts out with a world-class LSM launch into a great top hat with ejector airtime. This launch is so fast and the top hat is so forceful. After this, Junker has a very lengthy layout, and it also has an iconic Finnish loop with a huge loop stall over a bridge. But unfortunately, some of these elements on Junker doesn't really hit that hard, but you have a very forceful and fast overbank and a dive loop. So overall, lengthy ride, world-class start, smooth ride experience with the lap bars, great coaster. And coming in at spot number 1, we got Tiger at Linnanmäki, and with no surprise, Tiger is of course the best coaster in Finland. Tiger is part of the Intamin LSM coaster by Intamin, and all of these roller coasters are just world class, and Tiger might be one of the best coasters in the world actually. It is very hard to describe Tiger with few words, but you have a multi-launch, and these launches are just very punchy, and after this you have a very twisty layout with many hang time filled inversions and airtime hills. My favorite moments on Tiger is the first launch that goes into this outer bank and stalled inversion, and after this it must be the second rolling launch. This one is very punchy. You have airtime on the top hat, and then you fly into this huge 0G stall that goes down the hill. Now, no more words about Tiger, it's just a world-class coaster. So now if we quickly look at the parks with the most coasters on the list, we got Linnanmäki with 7 coasters, then we got Power Park with 4 coasters, and then we got Sarkanimi Amusement Park with 4 coasters. So the way to go is of course Linnanmäki with 7 coasters, but if you have time, take Power Park with you, man. And now we finally reached the end of this video. Do you agree with my list or do you disagree? Let me know in the comments, and please support the channel with a like or subscription. I don't even know, man, and at the end of the day I'm always gonna say bye bye.